welcome back, everyone. We are in the midst of our first best of three. Wannabees was able to take down Overkill in game number 1, 13-11. So actually very, very close. Definitely had a little bit of less than stellar start to the day for a couple of members on Overkill. I actually went and checked the stats, see how this paired up to the previous matches they played, I believe yesterday in the group stage. And yeah, Nemo definitely, I think, is just a bit warming up. I'm actually going to go ahead and say that kind of as a fact, but we actually will factualize it perhaps when we get into this next game and see how she does. But yeah, just maybe a little bit off. And if that had been even slightly different, it might have actually gone the way of Overkill. But next map's going to be Ascent, guys, so a whole new thing to talk about here. Epitomes, what do you think about this map after watching the first one play out?
I think Ascent is kind of an operator-sided map as well, so we'll probably see those guns again, especially in mid, and how important mid is to Ascent. But otherwise, you have a lot smaller choke points on both of these sites, so I definitely think that's going to be a huge factor into changing up the team compositions. I don't think we will be seeing that Sova again, even though Sova is pretty strong on Ascent. I think that Fade has kind of around him in terms of info on that map.
Yeah, seems to be the case. What stats we have from that amongst the pros. But Gompers, you share that opinion? I mean, it's a map that has, I think, a little bit more of this kind of open call. Doesn't have a very, very strict meta for agents. So you think they're going to see some more openness and flexibility, I suppose, for the choices of agents, and will it work out for Overkill to bring this back?
Yeah, I think there might be. I mean, obviously, a little bit more than Icebox. I feel like Icebox kind of, it just leaves you going to your same ways all the time. It feels very tight and claustrophobic at times. But honestly, I feel like any other map kind of gives you a little bit more leeway to try for something creative, try a different playstyle. And I mean, Icebox defensive is definitely not the easiest thing in the world. So maybe this will give some leeway there.
Yeah, I think Icebox, it's kind of a general critique of the map right now. It feels like we're just kind of like, you kind of are playing to certain expectations. Again, maybe a new agent could change that up, but yeah, no new agents played here in this tournament today. So Ascent, one of the oldest maps, also with a bit of that shakeup too, with the the not newest agents, but one of the new agents. And the players are almost ready to go. So I guess I'll end with just like Ascent into Haven will be our map number 3. Do you think we're going to get there? Epitomes, we'll start with you.
Well, I think that it's a really tough call because we saw that these teams are very evenly matched as of right now. And you also did mention that we are going to possibly have Nemo having like a little bit of a better game since last game. She was having maybe a little bit of an off day, maybe a little bit of a warm up if you pair up with the different stats. So it's definitely possible we go to that game 3.
Yep.
But I also would like to mention that one of the most important factors of that last game was Glimmer's positioning. And I think that she was actually top frag for Overkill and match MVP the entire game. So I think without the Viper, it might be a little bit tougher because she really relied on the Viper's pit, on playing around that wall and the poison orb and the snake bites. And all of that was so nicely done. And it's not really something any other controller can do or has the capability to.
Yeah, and Viper is not particularly popular on this map.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. Maybe they'll meet in the middle, kind of, I suppose, and one person will get like a little bit worse, maybe, and the other person will get a little bit better. We will see what happens as the players are now ready to go, so let's head into Ascent. Oh, we have to wait for the load screen to make it look really, really nice. So, as we head into Ascent, there we go.
Well, Gompers, what do you think of what we're seeing so far? We already saw the Fade being locked in. It's Yeji on the Jet this time. A little bit of a role switch here.
Yeah, I think, I mean, for now, the biggest thing is kind of just going with what works for you. I'm not surprised with the double I would say. Initiator, that's coming out. We pretty much saw that within the last map. But playing into the Killjoy, I feel like even though this is such like an OG for Ascent, it's also something that I feel like has kind of fallen off the meta because Chamber and always wanting to play on the op. And actually, that's another thing. These guys are married to the op. We talked about their marriage. We talked about the divorce papers. I'm surprised that they're letting
There are
it
no
go.
divorce papers.
Yeah,
they're
they're
never
not
getting
playing
divorced. Well, it seems like we do have that little bit of role straights. We have the Astra, but it's actually no Sentinel on Overkill once again. They do favor that little bit of aggression, right? But it's also the fact that they don't have a Sentinel. And when they switch over to that defense, I feel like they might struggle a little bit more because I don't think any of these agents really screams pseudo Sentinel to me either, because it's like you have Glimmer on the Astra who might be able to hold a bit more, but Astra has been nerfed really heavily from her pseudo Sentinel days, so I don't really think she can have that kind of power anymore. On the other hand, it's Wannabees who have that Killjoy, and those Killjoy setups are super devastating if you can get them right. But it seems like it's going to be a little bit more spread out, not really a dedicated setup, not going to dedicate those nanoswarms. Oh, no, dedicated both of the nanoswarms, right as I say that. But it's going to be an A site lean from Overkill, so Wannabe's job here is really to just try and force them off of the A and back towards that B site.
They're trying to put themselves together here down in Catwalk, and this is such a very, very strategic type of play coming into this, trying to split themselves up, go for the A site. Yeah, the Prowler comes out for information, but they still don't push the Astra Util too much for them as of right now. Oh, nice.
Just looking for those picks. Finding two here. Yara is able to find one in exchange, but now a 2v2 situation. Irene prepared with the flash drive, trying to peek up. Nope, just peeks back behind those walls. Zufi in a 2v2 now. Wannabees retaking, finding that first. No, it's just the Dink here. Now Denny, all alone.
The bullets to indicate that you're not falling. I've heard that one before. I do that in my games, but feels like it's kind of just a normal thing to do now. But Overkill taking that 1-0, and I believe they actually had the lead last time. I'm not completely sure if that was the case within Icebox, but I mean, kind of just going with it, rolling with the flow. Interested to see what's next.
Now Overkill, they do have that buy up. This time they do have that first pistol, and instead Wannabees are on the back foot here. And this is exactly what you want to see from Overkill, from their map. And Wannabees, they're actually stacking up on the B site. This is really interesting, but it's definitely a really smart play from them, since they have done this before on pistols where they try to secure first Bs by just stacking themselves up. Oh.
Oh, no, yeah, the run down from Overkill. Nice from it. It's the bonus round, so, you know, you can kind of account for... You can kind of know who's going to be able to win that one out just based off of, you know, the weaponry, what's going to happen there. So I'm just interested to see how they play this round in particular with the Spectres, with the Bulldog, against these Vandals.
I think this is also interesting because we mentioned how that chamber is really good with the operator, but we actually aren't seeing a chamber on either side. So I'm wondering if they are going to bring out that gun once again here, or if they're just going to try and stick with the Vandals instead. And now it's looking like just a little bit more of a split. Two towards mid. Just a bit of a default, actually. They have that spike down. Nemo's trying to make some space.
Obscuring vision.
Check coming down in mid. They can hear. Just based off of what he was pulled out before. Yep. Down in Cat again. So this is the second time trying to push for this. And I think who knows what's going to happen here. Yeah, they aim completely on it.
Still a 1-for-1 trade though, even with the buy up, but Yeji has spike down. That's such a huge pick.
Things that could come to it. Yeji with the spray transfer in the 4K. Wannabees.
No way.
A good round.
Wannabees are definitely celebrating that one. Yeji now with the Blade Storm ready after that huge play in main, and actually with no backup as well. Definitely the flashiness of the Jet suiting her here. And now on the other side, Overkill, they're looking at the buy-up once again. It's the first time we're going to see rifles across the board, but Wannabees do have those 2 ultimates available.
Yeah, good for them too. Yaji doesn't need it right now, so I'm gonna save that for the next rounds just in case the eco starts to come up, especially this one. I mean, they need to fight for this round to continue to boost their economy.
Going to try to get a little bit aggressive over on the A site, but once again do have spike down pretty far back, and Yeji is also pushed into Wine Cellar once again. Still no movement in A, and they're actually going to use the Owl drone, but they're not going to check Wine. They're just going to look for Irene, who's already in A. Okay. A little bit of a misfire on the shock dart. Yeji doesn't care. It's swinging out, and Glimmer takes her down. That's such a huge pick. Once again, Overkill, now 1 player up.
1 player down as well there for Wannabees, so a 1-to-1 Overkill versus Wannabees. The 4v4. Danny trying to limit these numbers, but Dove managing to win things out. And I mean, Overkill, they're trying to make their mark, trying to win this map out in particular, and I did say a lot more leeway in a map like Ascent.
Now null command coming out when they're 1 player down to try and even out the score. They have that 0 point, and the null command is just pinging so many players. But who's taken down just as that enemy remains out? It's 1v1. The headshot is good, and now gets the defuse as well.
Clutch. A little recognition is nice.
Wannabees.
Thank you.
Good for them. Honestly, taking this 2-2. Overkill taking a 3-1 would have been probably the riskiest play of all. But now pushing Overkill back into this save round, so the economy not looking too good. And they pretty much saved themselves to bring them back up to the lead there for Wannabees.
And Wannabees and Overkill, we've seen this start from them before, and they have also just been at 2-2. They're just such closely matched teams. And Overkill, however, they have that Sheriff buy this time around, even though they have both the Nightfall as well as the Cosmic Divide. On the other side, Wannabees are looking at that Operator buy on Yeji. Instead, it's going to be a full A push though. And all Yeji has to do is turn around and try and hold that front sight. But now, pinging out Who all the way in heaven, and now just spraying through that smoke. They're stalled out by a single Nebula.
Yeah, the smoke's up. And I don't even think they know what's going on right here, because Overkill, they're playing very, very passively. Push back, trying to find out what's going on surrounding mid. Maybe we can beg for a rotation, but no, actually, just trying to feed a rotation there for Wannabees.
You are divided!
Irene looking to go for the plant after the Cosmic Divide goes out. At the very least, they have a little bit of extra economy going into that next round with the help of the plant. And now Yeji. Looking to try and get a pick, peeking through the Cosmic Divide, but just no one is just taking the bait here. Denny also trying to find some leeway up catwalk, but it's just Overkill all stacked up on the site and in main.
Shots completely fired out, Wannabees. And the op, so things could go their way. The 1v2, there comes the second, the Bladestorm out, and we said that Yeji was saving it for a moment like this one. Maybe for the eco, maybe for the complete clutch that we just saw. So Wannabees, they take the lead. And this was good, but an eco round from Overkill and a possible win that could have came through. I don't know, it was risky.
That was such an expensive round for Overkill. They made that so competitive there, even with just sheriffs. And I think it had to come down to that Cosmic Divide from Glimmer. I was saying a little bit about how the wall and the Viper's utility was just so pivotal with Glimmer in the last game, and it seems like it's going to be happening again in this game. That Cosmic Divide just came at such a good time, and if we saw that Yeji didn't have the Bladestorm available, then that might have just been then that could have been a really tough spot for Wannabees to be in, losing an operator, losing a full buy to only sheriffs.
Information. And this is what I was waiting for. But the thing is that doesn't even hit. Kitsy stopping way too early and reloading an Odin. That could have lasted maybe like a couple more seconds. So honestly, not a lot of damage.
The Nightfall going out, the Prowler's expended, but they're just all following into Boathouse. Ooh, the Deafen is nice though. And now we have Kitsy with the Odin. No, it doesn't do much, and now it's all left up to Yeji once again. This time no Bladestorm available.
Spraying down on at the op, not enough for Yeji. I don't think they can clutch up again. Especially with the op in hand. Not available to be through here. What if they all lined up perfectly? It's like a triple collateral, like just straight across.
That was so funny, the way we saw Yechi swing out, and they were just like one head on top of another. Nicely played by Overkill for that last one. And now Dove also using that Nightfall. It gets a lot of information about the players in back Boathouse, and they were just all really stacked up. Even though the Prowler's near sight did fade away at that point, they still were deafened and slightly decayed from the Nightfall's duration, and I think that's just such a powerful ultimate to be able to even out health advantages. But Wannabees, they've actually forced them onto a save. It's very back and forth between these two teams.
Yeah, what feels right now is for Overkill to be very careful here. They have KO util to give away to information, so they could definitely figure out how many players are sitting here on B site. But I'm wondering if they're going to be able to do that, or if there's enough time with this slow approach.
Ooh. That was a little bit of a botch dash there, and Floofy, with only that Sheriff, is able to find two. It's actually even a kill there as well, Gompers, with the Shock Dart.
Hmm. 2v3, so this is possible. But I think the scariest thing is not knowing where these players are, but you have information. The drone is gone, but we have the recon dart. I'm hoping they use it.
30 seconds left.
Because they're just completely swinging this out. Miara could have been gone any second now, just based off of what's happening here. Yep, the information comes out. They destroy one turret coming down. The shot's fired, but so many players left standing there. It's super unfortunate, but a thrifty round coming out from Wannabees.
Well, it's almost a second for Thrifty, because I think we would have saw Thrifty coming out from Overkill on the other side if it weren't for Yeji here. And now it's actually no operator able to be rebought into this next round. They're not really looking to glass cannon with that gun, and instead it's just rifles across the board, and they have 3 ultimates available on one side, 2 on the other. Nemo actually looking to pop that Bladestorm, I believe, since they will be able to get a little bit of value on that eco ultimate, since there is no chamber, unless no Bladestorm?
Get out of my way.
I'm assuming, oh yeah, no, the Bladestorm comes out. And we know Nemo can pull together something nasty with the Bladestorm. But it seems like a little bit too scared here. And pushing themselves backwards, maybe faking a rotation, but they're going to be able to meet at least Yeji down in spawn. The first one there, some of the shots down, so they got some damage as well.
Edgy. They don't know where she is, and she peeks out. There's a Blade Storm still active here, and just util spam. Kitsy has the backup though. They come in through mid, and now all of a sudden, it's just that one player left in spawn. Kitsy finds 3, and Wannabees with 3 ultimates and a flawless round to bring them up to 5.
Up in the lead, Wannabees in a good spot, but also kind of having to be careful of giving them too much of that lead, especially since they've already won the last map. They seem more comfortable. They seem a lot more cohesive here, playing on the defense on Ascent.
Scanning ahead.
Definitely seem very uncomfortable. And Yeji is going for a lot of these really aggressive plays. Still able to find 1, but unfortunately it's 2 kills that swing over to the side of Overkill, so that play doesn't really net them much value here. And now Wannabees are in a 2v4.
Open up. Who says? And there's the first off of Dove. Alright, so with Dove down, they kind of lose that initiator to push forward even further. But still a 3v2, so numbers higher in terms of that. And already faking things out, so they pretty much have such a solid plan at this point. All they need to do is win the fight. Danny, low, but not too low, so they can still be there for the team.
Who's in a good position? Miara expects it. Oh, what? Gompers? What was that?
Okay, 1v2, valid. Completely valid. Let's see who has oh no. I didn't think that was gonna hit. I thought Denny would be able to get away from that.
Oh, well, a little bit of a chaotic round there, especially with the little debacle on the flank, but it seems run and gun Valorant tactical shooter very, very compatible. And now Wannabees, they can buy up once again. Yeji has the operator in hands, and Overkill is looking at full rifles as well as the Nightfall and the Cosmic Divide. And I feel like those 2 ultimates are probably the most impactful here, with that Null Command coming up behind as like a close second. But just because the Nightfall is able to do so much damage, and Yeji is as well, with that early pick onto Miara, that's a lot of info Overkill is now missing out on.
But a shot that could come down, especially over towards mid, so Wannabees pulling themselves together maybe just a bit harder. Yeji, even though we don't have a chamber, there still is that jet to play for things. And to play with that operator, kind of like the classic, the original.
Obscuring vision.
Ooh, Tenny with a good peek after that alarm bot goes out. Glimmer just flicks down to shoot it, and now Gompers, it's a 2v5 situation. And with the Nightfall available, it's possible they might be able to even this one out, since they have such a huge health advantage on Overkill. But at the same time, it's just worth thinking about whether or not you should invest into a round that seems so doomed just from a numbers perspective. And now, since there's a Nebula there, as well as a Fragment Nade, they are once again stalled.
It seems like they're always pushed back here from Overkill. Always seeing them have at least one moment in particular every round where they sit back, they don't know what to do, and then they tend to find themselves with a 2v5. I don't know if finding yourself is actually a good thing or a bad thing here, especially since you don't want to be caught in the first place, sitting around who's going to be able to catch up on Dove. And the spike completely down, leaving Irene alone, fighting for their lives. And can they pull something together? Nope. But it's okay. They keep their life.
a gun carried into the next round is definitely not a horrible investment, but at the same time, the rest of the team cannot match the buy, so Irene really kind of has to try and be the hero rifle and make some kind of hero play. Overkill, though, Cosmic Divide, that's been their huge ego ultimate. That's been the thing that was almost allowed them to get that thrifty, and maybe with a Vandal as well as the Guardian from Miara on the board, they might be able to find a bit more value in this eco round. However, Yeji once again making a good read with the operator, pushing up. Ooh. It's actually forced off the angle because of the 0 point and just forced back, so no early pick going to Wannabees is a good use of utility right at the beginning from Overkill.
Yeah, and Yeji's ready to pull something through. Oh no, I'm surprised they're not using the Blade Storm though, because they have that for this round. I mean, securing more than a 6 is definitely the way you want to go, especially since you can kind of put yourself closer to that 8 and 4 half. But it seems like Yeji's just going to keep playing with the holding the angle. There comes the first, and everybody else being that reinforcement to help Wannabees get onto the site.
Now, 2 ultimates for the retake, while Poofy is just fighting for her life in heaven, finding a 3k. Well, neither of those ultimates are needed. The lockdown just going to be there to try and clear those players out and flush them towards heaven and main. Nicely done retake from Wannabees, having 4 players left alive. Overkill on the eco, unfortunately not able to find more than 1 pick, so it's not even an expensive round for Wannabees in terms of credits, but they do expend 2 ultimates in the process.
Should I play some stars in this reality?
I think the Astra's definitely putting some numbers here on Overkill, but that round in particular is really just Yeji. I feel like with the op, and again, we talked about how the op wasn't fit for Icebox. We didn't like the way that it looked, but I think it looks good on Ascent. I think Yeji's playing it perfectly to a T, and the impact they have here for Wannabees is definitely big enough.
It's a potential 7-5 half that we're seeing, and last time we saw a 7-5, it did get flipped onto its head with Wannabees taking it over, and Yeji trying to go for an aggro play outside A. Glimmer shuts that down immediately, and Wannabees are suddenly down a player.
Yeah, but they know how to play without these duelists. I mean, can they do it this time? Yeah, Miara, good for information.
Not able to secure the ping on Ploofy, unfortunately, and also Who is in a really interesting position here. Completely blinds one of the players, but it just doesn't matter. Miara finds 2.
Oh, Kitsy, no. The Hunter's Fury. And it could have been used, I feel like, for something, maybe a different purpose, but I think Kitsy was starting to get desperate.
30 seconds
Wanting one pick to limit these numbers, but a 2v4, definitely not the safest bet.
Spike planted.
Evo in a really aggressive
Face
position
your
as well.
fear!
And it's the Nightfall to go out. Kitsy actually gets out of the way of that, and I don't believe the ping Dandy, so they don't know that they're there technically, but now they do because of that recon bolt.
Last player standing.
Nicely done by Glimmer.
Switching sides. I got enough time to go into the astral form?
Well, now looking at this next round, we are switching halves, and Overkill, they are on the defense without a Sentinel. So now it looks like they might be missing a little bit of that defensive power here.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of having the Killjoy on attacking side. I don't know how I feel about that. I know there's Killjoys that really can make way with this, but you know, you really need to know how to use your turret in situations like these. What can you do with your until as it is?
Spike down A.
Glimmer takes down Who, though, right before that Nebula goes up, and Irene actually spams Denny down through the smoke as well. Wannabes are down players already, and the spike has just gone down.
Oh no. 2v3.
One enemy remaining.
Overkill finding their shots. Floofy sitting below. All they need is a right click to kind of close things out, but Irene finding Floofy underneath. It feels like a horror movie at this point, but I mean, kind of on par with Halloween coming up. And I mean, seeing as what's happened there, 7-6, Overkill, they're slowly bringing things back.
Wannabes, they've done this before though, where they've been able to win a thrifty round on attack on the buy up from Overkill, but I'm not sure if there's really anything that's conducive to that over here on Ascent, because over on Icebox it was Kitchen. It's like this really claustrophobic closed quarters area of the map, but I'm not sure if anything can be said for Ascent, but it looks like Wannabes are seeing some kind of glimmer of hope over in the garden tree room over on the A site, walking up catwalk slowly. Yeji going in for the cloudburst, actually not going to tailwind into it though, while the rest of the team is going through. Oh,
Spike down A.
Oh, it's coming down on it, but that's okay. Look at that Overkill. They're getting taken down. 2 players down on Overkill. Wannabees only having pistols, being able to pick up these specters. This is where things start to get good. And I talked about that Killjoy, but maybe putting the Killjoy in a situation like this where the turret could actually account for some of that damage might help out. The first one drops. And there comes the damage, definitely there. Be careful, because they can see your back, Denny. Will they keep killing this night? Yup, and it's perfect!
yeah, it's once again that rush down on the buy up round when they lose the pistol. They just completely disrespect the team, and they able to save the pistol or the Spectre from Denny into the next round, but Overkill, they're broke, and now Wannabes, they're looking at a 9th round with the help of this buy up, and it's really for Wannabes about looking at those close quarters fights, and they were able to find them in Tree Room, and after picking up the Spectres, if there's even just a second of downtime for Wannabes, then they're able to pick up better guns.
Better weapons.
I'm not sure what they're doing.
Better weapons. Oh, I thought Floofy was gonna peek for a second just because the outline seemed like they were going to, but no, they're back in spawn. Trying to, you know, give in some smokes here. So I think the B hit's gonna come actually pretty aggressively. Yeah, look at that, the util in. The only thing holding them back is going to be that Astral Star, so. But they make their way through. All they have to worry about is Boathouse. What is Dove doing? Can a right click really help them in this moment? No, absolutely not.
And you also have these players that are kind of anchoring around that front site. Oh, Floofy, so good with 2. Denny just wraps around, is able to spray down the last one. Wannabees up to 9, and they also have 2 ultimates available in the process. They've been picking up the alt orbs, farming up the points from the plants, as well as the kills. So, Kitsy with the Hunter's Fury, and Denny with a lockdown on the other side. Irene is the only one who has an ultimate, or is even close to one, and has that null command. So maybe it'll be able to neutralize some of Denny's utility here, but otherwise I feel like this is going to be a really tough round. They have that operator, they have the Odin, and they have the full rifles, but if they're able to take out the lockdown with no Hunter's Fury to counter, it's going to be tough for sure.
You should run.
Standing ahead.
Oh wait, no.
Oh,
they're
no.
gonna no. Oh.
Okay. I guess the lockdown was more important than a frag, which, I mean, as valid as it is. Nemo, the trigger discipline not there.
Yeah, he got baited by the shoulder a little bit, and now we have, it looks like they were trying to bait them over to the rotation onto B site with the lockdown, but it just didn't work out. Overkill has been playing very, very disciplined here, and they are still holding on to their positions. Yara is definitely a huge threat, especially with the Odin over here on that B site.
Yeah, time is definitely a big part of the game. I talked about it before, but I mean, having too little time is Also very risky. You have to fight a whole crowd of players to try to get yourself back onto the site. So the A site seemingly like
30
the place where
seconds
we
left.
want to go. The suppression there, but Nemo confident that the first shot is going to hit. The flash coming out in time.
Oh.
Glimmer taking Yeji's life. Something I didn't expect, especially since they didn't necessarily have that information given to them. But it's okay. The op there. Irene trying to find one. Not able to. The suppression might actually work.
It definitely finds the two that are sitting right under heaven here. But Dove going to use that Prowler. Actually does spot one by Generator.
Yeah, hoping that advancement. It was the Prowler that came out. Gave some information. Hey, nobody's just behind Jenny. You can peek this. The Hunter's Fury out, getting it half, but that's okay. As Dove goes down, it leaves some space for Miara. Push themselves up, and the 2K from Glimmer. Jenny wasn't even watching the angle, just sitting behind them.
No way! What? What in the world? Glimmer just held on to that spike, and I think that's just one of the most powerful things about the Cosmic Divide, right? You're able to get the sound cues to not go out, so they don't know whether or not you're on the defuse, and Glimmer just held it down. And I feel like the shock darts without a vulnerability status on top of them, it is really hard to secure kills with them, especially after the nerf, unless they've already been significantly chunked, which Glimmer was not. So now Miara is trying to find some early picks, but it's going to be Sheriffs for this defending team.
Up. There goes Dove. It's okay, Kastani watching this angle. Pretty aggressive, but the punishment comes down. Although Overkill. I mean, leaving Irene so low kind of messes with you. Well, what can I do? 20 health. What can I do to allow Glimmer to maybe take something home here? And it seems almost impossible. The util for Wannabe is definitely huge. They're just watching, sitting on the site waiting.
I have a flash drive. I feel like that's the most that Irene can do for Glimmer here. Ooh, Glimmer peaks. Down who?
One enemy remaining. Last player standing.
Okay.
No more.
I mean, they did a good job at limiting the players here, to be fair with you. 2v3, I mean, one of your players are super low. You managed to take 2 players down, and there's only one more left. The only issue is, I mean, sitting down in Boathouse, they have that crosshold, they had the contact, so I mean, overall, taking it 10-7. Wannabees, this is coming too close.
I'm really surprised that last round was that close as well, because it seemed like they were positioned well enough to kind of peek off one another. You have 2 players in Boathouse. That first point of contact is who peeking out from the right side, and then I feel like Yeji should have swung off that first contact just to be able to try and find some picks, as well as the player in left side Boathouse. But instead, we have themselves with only 1 player left standing. Not a big deal since they have that economy left to spare, and this time it's the null command that's going to be their ultimate of choice to try and take this site. Oh. What? Okay. They were jumping, but who still finds that pick?
No one just Piping and planted leaves for some time being of the essence here. Irene knowing one maybe just within the garage. No. Nothing. They don't even clear it. They leave themselves open from behind. And now Nemo has to try to give some of that redemption, but absolutely nothing. The shot's through, 1v2, Glimmer, impossible because the hold is just 1 above and 1 below. And 11-7, it comes.
The power of friendship on the side of Wannabees, and now Overkill, they're forced to save once again, and if they lose this, it's going to be match point, going to go ahead and start that timeout for this team, trying to figure out what they can do differently. But it seems like Wannabees is kind of just running them down.
I think another thing too is kind of looking at the way the game is being played. You got Wannabees. Their positioning, I feel like we talked about the most. The fact that they're holding themselves at such good angles and they always have that partnership system. I mean, they won out in Boathouse because they had that contact being played. They won this round in particular, even though I'm pretty sure Overkill could have won that. They had the aim ready and prepared. They had the play style that they were willing to commit to. Okay, I'll just play this aggressive. It's a 1v2. I won the first one. I'm feeling good about my aim. But it was that position that got them done with. So I think that Wannabees, just overall playing with that cohesion, maybe just a bit better than Overkill.
Overkill do have those two big ultimates available once again. Glimmer has been playing incredibly well these last few rounds, and the Cosmic Divide is ready and prime for them, but once again, this is going to be an eco round, and Wannabees are very close to match point, so I don't think that she's going to try and invest that right before a potential 12 and 7, because they're going to need every bit of help that they can get to try and fight back into this map and try and get to Haven. But now it's a lockdown being used. Wannabees, they don't care if Overkill is on an eco round. They're just going to use their utility, play regularly, and kind of give them that respect, which is a big part of the reason that they aren't really losing too many thrifties. They do definitely make it really close, but for the most part, their thrifties have been all right.
And this is good. Okay, so much damage off of Kitsy. Kitsy gets the first
One enemy remaining.
to really finish things out, but Overkill, I mean, they just get obliterated in a matter of seconds. Even though they have kind of the save round coming down, I do think they could have pulled things together. But then again, right, the shock dart initially getting that damage down, it's just overall them peeking through and trying to play that aggressive angle, but then everybody playing together.
Yeah, I think they were really trying to fight for that garden position, kind of reminiscent of what Wannabees was doing in their buy-up, where they were trying to find the close corners fights, right? But they kind of peeked through one by one and allowed themselves to get isolated, and Wannabees also played that very well as well, since they had that player that was anchoring around Catwalk, and then also you have someone who is just sitting inside garden. But now Nemo getting aggressive, the operator coming through, no, is able to escape with her life, but otherwise not that early pick secured, unfortunately.
Yeah, but they can still play for it. If anybody wants to peek this, I mean, that's their choice. Considering the fact that they know the op is there.
Oh.
Kitsy! Too slow for Nemo. And Overkill lose the op again. Again, it's also the discussion bringing this back up. Is the op effective?
You know, maybe we can chalk it up to a ping diff, and I'm not sure, because I felt like Nemo should have hit that shot, you know, I feel like that would have hit, but Kitsy was just quicker to the trigger, and now Glimmer alone on the site. Such a good player, such a strong player for Overkill, but taken down after one.
Spike planted.
Okay. Yeah, everybody's pretty much tethered up here. Irene knows this. They're trying to play with those tethers to see what's going on, but no! They should have known. A refrag might have come through. Somebody was looking for that second one. Now Miara might actually give this away to Wannabees. A 1v3. This is it. Can they pull things together? The first one is going to be Kitsy,
Attackers win.
not Miara. So Miara taking the 4K down and just winning things out for Wannabees.
Yep. Wannabees takes the 2-0. Unfortunately, Overkill not actually able to improve on their performance at Icebox, and yeah, is taken out, as we are in a single elimination tournament at this point. We'll say goodbye to them for now, but hopefully we do see them back for the next Game Changers Academy. Just kind of recap the overall series, I suppose. Epitomes, looking at both of those games, what would you say was the biggest difference between the two teams?
I definitely feel like Wannabees kind of had a few more set strats, and this might also be because I believe Overkill had a sub playing for them this weekend, so their team wasn't as cohesive there, but at the same time, Wannabees, they knew what they had to do in order to win out these battles, especially in those close quarters, and I also think their team comps might have been marginally better. I feel like the addition of the Killjoy definitely helped them out, since the lockdown can be such a huge ultimate, especially in terms of retakes and takes. And I think the triple initiator on the side of Overkill, since they do have two of those agents who both have info with Sova and Fade, it might have been a little bit redundant for their team comp, and they also are missing out on a bit of defensive power.
Actually, speaking of the composition, I know chat noticed it too. I mean, Gompers, any thoughts on the whole no chamber for either one of those teams in the last map?
I think if you want to play with the op, it's a risky thing. You know, there were a lot of times where I actually saw, you know, the Jets literally having to run out instead of dash out. And with the nerf on Jet's dash as well, like, you can't play as effectively as you used to be able to with Jet. There's not that guarantee that you can get yourself out because of that loadout. And it's like, it's just so dangerous, so risky. Then you only have the Killjoy for information. You're not able to use the eco weapons that you're kind of gifted on a map like Ascent, which is so important. And I think overall, like, again, into discussion, is the op even worth it if you're not going to be playing with that chamber? What can you do that's more effective? I feel like if we had just had that Vandal on the side of Overkill instead of that op, we could have gotten a lot more frags.
It's actually quite interesting because it's not like, I mean, first of all, either team are unfamiliar with Chamber, but in particular Overkill, unfortunately the losers of today, Nemo actually did rather well with Chamber and presumably an op yesterday. So I don't know what changed, but Epitome's mentioned it. We did have a sub for Overkill, so it could have been one of those things where just once they were actually pushed to their limit, that new sub in, having to kind of work with the team, gel team, try and figure out new strats, didn't end up working out this particular time, as that was Nemo who was the sub for Octina, I believe. So yeah, all excellent points. And again, we do have Wannabees moving on, looking stronger as the games went, looking particularly strong in our last map. And I guess before we do throw it into a break and actually let you two guys go, I just want to get your thoughts on the other results that we had for the brackets, which isn't really a surprising result. Version X did take a 2-0 over Solaire, but I guess Epitome, start with you. Not a surprise, I'm going to assume, but kind of a bummer. Solaire, I believe, was a runner-up last month, so early departure for them.
Yeah, definitely. I think Solaire got a little bit unlucky with this bracket going up against Version X. And Version X, obviously, they have a lot of resources. They kind of had, I mean, Solaire and Version X are a little bit similar in that their players are kind of in a revolving door, that they don't really have this very set roster that is playing all the time and kind of improving together like we do see with some other teams. But I definitely think that they are trying to make adjustments and see what works, and Version X, I expect to see them in the finals.
Yeah, that I think we're all kind of assuming that, so we're kind of keeping them like almost in the closet for now. Like, we'll get to you guys. Like, we know we're going to get to you guys, which does seem to be assured. But Gompers, any last thoughts on the results for the bracket or this match?
No, I mean, no last thoughts. I kind of really heavily agree with Tala. It's Version X. Like, come on. I mean, they came into this. They're a very, very strong team. But I do think, honestly, like, Game Changer Academy, right? The time to learn, the time to put what you have learned kind of just all on the board here. And I think somebody might come close to Version X. I think that they're going to test their limits.
Might be, actually. I don't know about their next team, but we do, of course, have the other teams that are very familiar with the top four or winning the whole tournament, as Ariana Grande Perfume and Team Mystic Venus, both actually not having an opponent in the playoffs quite yet, but will after, I believe, this match, actually. So the upcoming match is going to finish up this part of the bracket. We move on afterwards, but that is going to be it for you guys. So thank you so much for joining us. A lovely cast. I believe I see both of you tomorrow, or is it just okay, there you go. So we'll definitely see you guys back. And guys, don't go anywhere. We are going to be getting into our second best of 3 of the day, and we have a third one as well, so plenty more Valorant to come. Up next, going to be Tactical Throwers versus Colossal Gaming.
Skies, mid-November, you and I fade to wherever. I don't You sure do like to share your opinions, talking big like somebody's listening. Nobody's listening. It's so fun and games until it doesn't. Toss me out, I'll hit the ignition. Now you listen.